So we're taking LeBron and we are putting him in the time machine. And we're bringing him back to the 85-86 season, where he's going to see some of the greatest teams of all time, one of which is the Larry Bird and the 86 Boston Celtics. Another one is Magic Johnson and 86 Lakers. Yeah. There's Philadelphia with a young Charles Barkley, Moses Malone, and an old retiring Dr. J. There's who else is there? Jordan's injured. He's got a foot injury this year.
You got the Pistons.
The Pistons are just coming into form. They're not totally the bad boys yet, but they're about to be on the map. So we have a lot of guys to discuss, and we are taking.
You got the Houston team too,
the Twin Towers. Yeah. But we are taking the 2020 LeBron and the Lakers with Anthony Davis and LeBron James into this season. So let's start with MVP. Okay, so when we're looking at the voting, these are some of the better players for the league. Nick had Dominique Wilkins for Atlanta, 30 points a game. The pace is up. Remember, we've talked about this in previous time machines. The pace is up. They're moving faster, as a lot of these teams did in the late 80s. Like, that's why you saw a lot of there was a lot more run and gun stuff. And I'm sure I'll have some of the video from the 80s. But
wait, I think it's the next season that the pace goes like really high.
Oh, well, I'm sure in particular, but it's the era in general. Like,
Yep.
But we got Larry Bird winning the MVP, 26 and 10 with 7 assists, 2 blocks, 50, 40, 90, almost 50, 40, 90.
Yeah.
For the season, and the best passing team to ever play by a lot of people's standards. He had almost all the first place votes. Dominique, scoring 30 points a game, managed to sneak away a couple of these votes. Yeah. LeBron, in comparison, and I have that here in the season in question, LeBron's right there, right, from a points perspective. 10.2 assists, led that league in assists. I don't know how many assists do you have in total?
I have a quick question though. So the Celtics were the best passing team ever.
In Russell's opinion.
Okay, but ready, Russell? I'm just gonna do a little stat bubble pop really quick. So I did like the team stats per game for this season. Yeah. And so the leaders for assists for the game, there was actually the Lakers with 29.7, with the Celtics following them behind in 29.1 assists a game per team.
You fucking giving me shit over less than a full assist a game.
Yeah, I am.
Fucking whatever.
Well, actually, they were points
because Magic Johnson's getting. Yeah, right. But I was like, there's no way LeBron would lead the league in assists because Magic's got 12, and I think Isaiah Thomas is over 10 assists a game. There's a couple other ones.
Yeah. And plus LeBron only played 67 games.
Yeah, but that was because of the fucking
bubble. Yeah, it's the bubble, but that'll
So let's look at the playoffs between the 3 main guys, right? From that season. So they're all over 20 a game. LeBron 27, 9 assists, 11 rebounds. I know you're proud that my rounding is good.
Oh, Magic was 22 and 15?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Magic is the man, bro. Like, fuck.
Say what you want about how he left the Lakers at the end there, that we talked about. But when he was playing for the Lakers, this is why, man. It's hard to touch his 10 years. It's hard to touch his 10 years. Like, I'm glad we did his legacy breakdowns, one of the first ones.
Like, it was the end. Not to get off topic, but it was going through Magic's legacy breakdown, and that's why I really enjoyed doing these, because like you look at players so much like more differently after you go through every single season and break it down. Because Magic, I never had him over Kobe, but then after going through it, I'm like, you gotta respect that shit. Like that's crazy.
He was beasting, and Larry Bird, who would go on to win the championship 20, 21. Oh, no, it's per 36. My bad. Pretty much the same numbers that he had in the regular season.
Yeah.
The same amount of points per game.
Yeah.
Who would you pick? Do you think LeBron could sneak in the MVP race here? Or do you think it's Larry's no matter what?
I think it's Larry's because I don't see LeBron going over 60 wins.
Yes. So but this is the West is not super strong. Like it's the Lakers, but you got the Twin Tower Rockets. They shocked the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. That was an upset.
Yeah.
They were huge underdogs, but a young Akeem Olajuwon and then a Ralph Sampson who had not had his legs destroyed yet, or I think that's what happened to him, the injury. But after that, I think the Lakers are the second best team. The 2020 Lakers, excuse me, would slide right here at number 2. Their 52 wins that they got in 2020, even though it's a fucked up season, still would get them number 2 in the West. And I think that they would probably, I don't know. It's a close battle.
I think, I don't. The only reason is because the Celtics would have won almost 10 more games than the Lakers probably.
That's fair.
You know,
I could see if we were to adjust for the you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we were to add extra games, they probably would have been around 57, 58 wins.
Yeah. And I think we also have to take into consideration Anthony Davis averaging 25 a game. That has been consistent throughout all of NBA history. If you got another guy averaging 25 plus, you're not going to win MVP.
Very true. And at this point, there was nobody doing that shit.
Yeah, for Larry, all he had was Kevin McHale at 21.3 was the closest to 25.
And he still managed to win MVP. Yeah. So Kareem's still averaging 23 points a game for the Lakers in the regular season. When he gets to the
this was when he was baby dicking it, right? Like where he'd he won't play hard.
What kind of term is that?
Baby dick. So like he
wasn't ready.
He goes soft in the regular season and then he gets hard in the playoffs.
Hey, he goes back up to about 26. What is it with 25.9 this season? Everyone's averaging 25.9 points a game.
Yeah.
Pussies, get to 26. It's amateur hour. No wonder why Neek got second MVP voting, because they were just like, fuck, we need someone to hit.
Bro, Magic averaging 22, 15, and 7 is godly.
That's why people were shocked that they didn't make the playoffs in 80. And it was supposed to be Celtics Lakers in the finals.
Yeah.
But I think LeBron could probably sneak in. So Dominique has 30 points a game, right? And what was Atlanta's record? Let me go back to that. The Hawks had 50 wins. LeBron's second place. He was second place in 2020. I could see him being second place here, behind Larry Bird.
Even over Magic, when he's not going to have more wins than him.
Look at what happened with Neek. Neek doubled his voting. Yeah, and it was because
he must have been just like, Magic, you've won this shit too much. Fuck that.
Well, he's only 26. Larry, this is his.
Oh yeah, Magic hasn't even won an MVP by
no. What they're saying is, fuck you, dude. You're riding Kareem's sack. You would not be nearly as good if you didn't have Kareem. That's what's happening right now.
Disrespecting my man.
Yeah, for sure.
It must have been it must have been during this playoff run that everybody was just like, "Oh, this dude is like." And then he goes because he wins a bunch of MVPs after this. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, he sneaks a bunch in that last this late '80s. After this point, basically, once he beats Larry in that '87 finals, it's like Magic season, Magic era until the '90s. Yeah. I mean, I know that from a championship perspective, Isaiah gets those back-to-back, but like MVPs, Magic gets a good portion.
Yeah, Magic is the
close ones
known
too.
as the best player in the league at this point.
Yeah.
And fighting for the spot is Jordan.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I think LeBron, if the voters were already like Dominique's getting 30 points a game and is only like LeBron's going to finish with more wins than me and more points per game but still getting over 10 assists. Like 25 and 10 assists, that's hard. Like So I think,
and you could argue before the bubble, if that 8-game bubble span didn't count, it would have been 26 and almost 11. So.
Yeah, and I think that could fit LeBron right in that second spot for MVP.
Yeah.
So if we're assuming the West is relatively weak, right? There's two teams in the West from a playoff perspective that I think the 2020 Lakers will have issues with. One of them is this Houston team that obviously made the finals. It was a fluke, but they had two twin towers, right?
Yeah. Well, why do you think it was a fluke? I think it was just a great matchup for them.
I just think it was a fluke because of everything that we're seeing with these behemoth Laker and Celtic teams. They should have just met over and over again, and they did. They met a bunch, but trust me, they were huge underdogs going into that series, I would imagine. But Hakeem Olajuwon, 23 years old, 23.5 points a game, 11.5 rebounds, and 3.5 blocks a game.
Ooh, I got a good question for us.
What a savage.
And I know the answer. What do you think happens between Hakeem and Anthony Davis?
Oh, my God. That would be the most fun matchup. So when we're going to talk about the 1993 season, where I think it's going to be harder for me to choose, but I'm taking Anthony Davis in his prime over this Hakeem Olajuwon. I think later on, I think in 93, where it'll be a much harder debate because Hakeem is like MVP and it's time to and the team's built around him and it's kind of a futuristic team. Yeah. But in this 86, I think the bigger thing is who's going to guard Ralph Sampson. He's 7'4". Yeah. And he's getting 19 and 11.
Yeah. And you do got JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard there. And obviously AD.
Dwight Howard is a small child in comparison to Ralph.
No, yeah, I know, but the whole thing
JaVale would be the smartest matchup.
The great part about this Lakers team, and this is why I think they're gonna adapt pretty well as we bring them into this time machine, is they're such a hybrid team where they could jump in and out of small ball and big whatever the hell it is.
Large man ball.
Regular basketball.
Yeah, regular basketball. Yeah. So I think they're able to like adapt to things like this, where you have two big guys that are dominating. But where I think they're gonna take advantage is when one of those two big guys are out, and then being able to go into that small ball lineup. Because what are the Lakers making? Like, what are the 3 points? Because that's
that's a great point.
Every single time we go into these time machines, unfortunately that's always like a big deciding factor. Yeah. Is the 3-point shooting for the more modern teams, because they can exploit it and take advantage of these older teams, unfortunately. Yeah. So that's the part that makes it a little harder when comparing the two. Because I know the Lakers weren't really even a great 3-point shooting team, but they still probably.
I mean, in comparison to everybody else this freaking year. Yeah. In comparison to the 80s, they're going to be number one by a mile.
Yeah. So they're at 11 3-pointers made a game.
Yeah. So let's see where that puts them. That's definitely going to put them number one, I would imagine. Wow. But I wonder by how much. I would imagine so, but so the most 3-pointers made per game, drum roll, 1.7. So they are completely obliterating that. They are abusing the three by an 80 standard.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's their percentage? What was their percentage? So they were shooting about 34%.
35%.
35%, excuse me.
Oh no. Yeah.
Hey, I'm not going to be perfect every time. That still puts them near the lead, and making 11. It's pretty crazy. So, 113 points per game puts them at about. I think that puts them somewhere in here. 113. They'll find themselves in the top 10. That's the most interesting part. Those 11 threes per game still don't put them at the top of the board. But what might is boosting their pace up.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The pace in this. So what's the pace in 2019? What we got these Lakers at? Pace is at 10.
You see it? Yeah, here we go.
Pace is at 100, almost 101.
So, yeah, essentially 101.
Yeah. So it looks like they're faster. They're going at a faster pace than. But was this? Yeah.
I get it. Okay, so and this year the paces are ridiculous. That's what I was saying. Some of the paces are a little bit higher than that.
Yeah. So they would have been.
Actually, they fit right in here.
It would have been right in the middle.
They fit right. They're basically in the same spot they're at.
Yeah.
In the 2019-2020 season. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And pace is such a good factor as we do the time machine because it's just something that explains so much about what a team is doing and what's happening in the league.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. I knew the pace was up in comparison to the early 2000s, but I didn't realize it reached back to this late 80s point.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the points per game and everything is going to be pretty legit too. But their defensive rating compared to that Houston team, I think, is like significantly better.
Yeah. So with opponent points per game.
Yeah.
Lindsay, who's number one in opponent points per game?
Sure. Opponent points per game is the Knicks with 104.3. Yeah. Celtics are third with 104.7. And the Lakers weren't in the top 5.
The 80s Lakers, right?
Yeah, the 80s Lakers.
So they're at 107.
Yeah.
So, adjusting for 3, right?
Yeah, because 3s are in the chain. Yeah.
I feel like they'd probably be a top 5 defensive team. I feel like that's a safe thing to say. No? Yes?
Yeah, I feel like they would. Especially, I think especially the 2020 Laker team was much better at defending the rim than defending.
Coached by Frank Vogel, a guy who knows what he's doing defensively.
Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure as we were going through the playoffs, one of the issues for the Lakers is their 3-point defense.
True.
Their above the rim defense was pretty good because obviously you have Anthony Davis, JaVale McGee, and Dwight Howard, who are all good shot blockers.
That's fair. You think and I think a guy like Dwight Howard, even though he's not Dwight Howard from Orlando, but I think he'll have a lot of success in an era where he doesn't have to worry about guys stretching the floor on him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And the big thing is LeBron being able to pull guys out. Like he might be able to take advantage of of Akeem. Like Akeem having be pulled out, and now you have Anthony Davis being able to go one-on-one with somebody. Like it might make it a little easier.
Akeem was known for being able to guard smaller players like pretty well on switches. Like if he switch on the pick and roll, that was like he was ahead of his time in being able to guard with his speed, even though he was fucking huge. Yeah. But am I going to say that he could totally lock up LeBron James on the outside? I'm not that confident.
And I'm not trying to take anything away from Akeem, but it's easier to guard a smaller guard when they're not really shooting threes.
That's a great point.
You know what I mean? Like if you're shooting maximum 5 threes a game, I'm not really worried about you taking that outside shot. I'm not letting you get this layup on me. You know what I mean? So
what about McHale on LeBron?
That's food, in my opinion. LeBron's probably
yeah.
But on the other end, if we're talking about you're talking about LeBron getting posted up by McHale. I'm just
talking about either way. I'm just putting the comparison or like the play up matchup up there.
LeBron, how big is Kevin McHale at this time? Because I'm pretty sure LeBron is like, I feel like LeBron is like heavier than him. And
so, McHale is 6'10", 210 pounds.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like LeBron got him by 50 pounds at least.
But he has so much more post experience, and that's what the game's going to be dictated on. Especially if you're Kevin McHale, you're going to be
offensively. I think he'll be able to do it. I'm just talking about defensively. I think LeBron.
Well, that's what I meant by it would be food. Yeah. Like for LeBron, like you just take him outside, step back threes from the wing all day for LeBron.
Kevin McHale is going to be able to get him like like in the post, like he's one of the greatest posted players of all time.
Yeah, it's him and Hakeem that are top of the list of that. But Kevin McHale is the best in this era right now.
Yeah.
Even over Hakeem, just because he's more prevalent in this period of time. But who do you have between the Lakers of '86 and these Lakers of 2020? Who do you got?
So you still have a pretty decent Hakeem giving you 25.
Wait, I said Lakers.
Sorry, not Hakeem. My bad. I'm messing up with the name. Kareem. Yeah. Who's giving you 25 and 6 or something like that?
Yeah, in the playoffs he got to 25.9 again.
Yeah. And then you got Magic giving you 22, 15, and 7, which is
I think Magic and LeBron have a chance to cancel each other out. I think. In terms of like production, I think that because you're not LeBron's not going to guard him the whole game. It's just not going to happen. It never happens. So especially considering Magic's playing true point guard, and LeBron technically is playing point guard for the Lakers, but a lot of times it's a little bit more positionless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think you see probably 25 and 10 in a 7-game series. I don't know.
You want to
That's
know
a real hard one for me.
Could I be really honest? Yeah. And I don't know if this is me like dick eating or what, but I truly do think that we never got to see the 2020 Lakers at their full potential. Because I feel like, because we sat together, watched this, and LeBron James, Game 5 against Denver Nuggets, when he went into that mode, it was a completely different game. Like, it was like he was just, I just don't know. And maybe that might be my recency bias. And I just feel like they can't fuck with him. Like, is that wrong on me, man? Like,
wait, dude.
Who's gonna guard LeBron James in this series at all?
So they have guys who are LeBron's size that they can throw at him, like that are defenders. Like you have Byron Scott, who's a little bit smaller, but you have a guy like James Worthy. You have guys like Magic, who are of the teams we're going to talk about here. The Celtics and the Lakers do have a good amount of guys who are of that wing size that at least you throw bodies at them, which is what a lot of teams in this era do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be one man's assignment. I think there will be a lot of.
I just feel like all of them
playing in '86, so there's no zone. So LeBron is getting a little bit more of a one-on-one look.
Yeah,
which does help him a little.
Forget about that. And then also, that makes it easy. That helps them a little bit more because since there's no zone, the 3-point shooting could not be as exploit them as much.
Yeah, like there was shading and obviously double teams without like you had to commit to the double team, but there were guys like if a guy was good like Magic, like they're shading him. You can see it in some of these highlights. Each play, like it's not exactly no zone, but
it's also it's like
there was illegal defense.
Yeah, it's spacing. Yeah. But I don't know, man. Like I think this is Kareem's last great year, and I feel like Anthony Davis could cancel him out. I think honestly,
I don't know if Anthony Davis cannot stop the skyhook. That's the only thing.
Absolutely not. But I think
no chance.
But do you think Anthony Davis and Kareem give you the same production? I think Anthony Davis gives you a little bit more production than Kareem right now. Right.
But then again, I think the thing for me, I just think this Lakers team is so much more deep than the 2020 Lakers team. Like I think once you get past LeBron, Rondo, AD, and Kuzma on a good day, you're running short. With this team,
don't forget about my man Caruso.
They got Magic, Worthy, Byron Scott. They don't have Bob McAdoo anymore. I think that was in the early '80s. But because of the way the free agency works and the way the team teams stayed together there's so much more team chemistry here. whereas this Laker team is really only been together for a short period of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you got my whole thing. This Laker team, the 2020 Laker team, has the benefit of spacing the floor much more. You got you definitely have an advantage against Kareem where you could pull him out with AD because AD was doing that a lot with like bigger defenders.
Sure, and he was getting his range is pretty good.
And I just feel like that. I feel like they can take advantage of that because like LeBron being able to have a full head of steam to the basket because of AD having to pull Kareem out. Like who else is going to guard AD? Like Kareem's going to have to. And I don't know if Kareem could guard AD for a full 40 minutes at this.
But if they're missing those long shots lead to long rebounds, which triggers the fast break. Yeah, which is literally you're feeding into that Showtime game.
Yeah.
You're just pouring into it. That's what we're watching with these highlights. I have just classic Magic highlights up. But
it's definitely
that's where I think it's a really good matchup, and I'm really happy we chose that 2020 Laker team for this reason because I think it's probably going to come down to depth in a lot of these situations when we go look at these older teams, especially in this 80s period. Because the depth is weird at this, there's a lot of on the great teams at the cream of the crop. They're so deep.
Yeah, I do think it goes 6 or 7 games
for sure.
I'd probably go with the 87 Lakers.
Yeah, Lindsay,
I think it'll be very close, and I wouldn't be surprised if it can never happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if the 2020 Lakers would win. But I think 6 or 7 games.
I like them. I think I like them better. I think they have more to offer a team like Boston in a 7-game series than the Lakers because I think in the half court and the way the Celtics played, the ball movement, we've seen LeBron get beat by ball movement teams in the past, but not this team, not this particular team. This team was very lock up defensively, specifically in the half court.
Yeah.
And I think.
But the whole thing with the 2020 Lakers is they were a really good half court team.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it. It kind of. I feel like either way, each of these series kind of go pretty deep. We're just assuming that the 2020 Lakers somehow advance and then go to Boston, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say I would probably have the 86 Lakers over them in 7, but I don't know if that's because I actually think that's the logical choice. Partial to a Magic Johnson led team winning, I just don't know.
Yeah.
That's fair. But
it's definitely. I think it's a toss. I don't think it's an easy series, and most people will probably look at that and say these 86 Lakers are arguably a top 5 team all time.
Yeah,
but it truly is just the age, like the aging of the teams and stuff like that. Having a 2020 team go against this all time great team there's gonna be alterations because this team now is shooting 11 threes when the freaking Lakers never freaking faced the team that shot 11 threes or made 11 threes and shit like that. So it's gonna really adjust the way of the game a little bit.
And like I was starting to say, as we're gonna transition to the Celtics.
Yeah,
I think that fucks over this team more than it does the Lakers because the Lakers can make back some of those points in transition a little bit easier. And the Celtics were also a great transition team, as we talked about with the assists per game.
Yeah.
I think if you put Kevin McHale and LeBron James, you are in huge trouble. And I think that's a matchup that they're going to seek out. And the problem is, if you don't seek that out, then you're looking at Larry Bird on LeBron James. I think that's bad for Larry Bird. Really bad. Dominique Wilkins fucked Larry Bird up in showdowns and shootouts. Larry Bird got his points, but Dominique was a force. And LeBron has that level of athleticism still at this age. And he could still get by Larry. He's got the basketball IQ. And I think LeBron will be in this Celtics series just like calling out their plays before it happens. And the only way the Celtics are able to beat the 2020 Lakers is through ball movement and just like fluidity, just being total.
Yeah, but that's what they always. That's what they've done the whole year, though.
Yes.
Are you ready, Russell? Ready,
Yeah.
Russell and Dario? So I'm gonna explain to you that I was kind of a dick rider earlier. So if you take a real look at like the team stats per game, you'll notice that like while the Lakers had more assists per game, they also had more points per game, while the Celtics had less points per game. So which would lead you to believe that the Celtics had a greater points to assist ratio, which would probably make them the better passing team. But I didn't explain all that before because I wanted to make fun of Russell.
You bring this up at this exact point because
now it'll help you argue that the Celtics could maybe win.
I don't think they could though. I really don't. I think the 2020 Lakers have a better shot to beat this Celtics team because of a guy like Anthony Davis, because of a guy like Rondo. Those smart basketball IQ people help in that half court game.
Yeah.
I think the fast break separates the Showtime Lakers in a scenario like this, where I think it's a rougher matchup. Like, I really do. I think the matchup that they ended up getting with the Rockets and the Twin Towers was just feeding into what they wanted to do anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that.
And you guys have so many bodies.
That the 86 Celtics. All right. Time out. Gotta, and I probably should have done this with the Lakers, but the Celtics are 100% the team to mention this with.
Yeah.
How is Anthony Davis gonna address getting the shit kicked out of him? Is that gonna alter his game and play? A lot of people have, even during the whole, like, Anthony Davis has to like try to push that stigma off of him that he's a soft player.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true. And he's gonna be with two Hall of Fame bigs in the paint.
Yeah,
if he chooses to do that.
Yeah,
like you said,
I just want to mention Robert Parrish, two-pieced. Robert Parrish has two-piece, dude.
He punched the shit out of Bill Laimbeer.
Yeah.
Oh
he's
my
also
god!
Clothesline someone.
Yeah,
that's
so he definitely ain't that type of. He's not no soft, no pussy ass big.
No.
So that's what I'm saying. Like
Bill Walton
could get into Anthony Davis' head.
Bill Walton was Sixth Man of the Year this year. He was a Hall of Famer. But like we said, they have a lot of size and they can play hybrid. That 2020 Lakers team can play that hybrid style and bring the Dwight Howards and the JaVale McGee's and put them next to
I think Dwight Howard plays a bigger role in this too. Like
JaVale McGee also. The size definitely plays a factor. So Anthony Davis can play more of a power forward.
Yeah.
But maybe they do it the other way. Maybe they look at it and go, Anthony Davis is our 5. We're pulling these big fuckers outside and fuck it. That's what we're doing.
But yeah, I just think they're allowed to hit him a little bit more, and I think it'll really throw AD off of his game.
I don't think that'll throw somebody like Rondo off, and I don't think that'll throw somebody like LeBron off. I think LeBron, a couple of guys on that. Caruso will be fine.
If this was like
Kuzma,
LeBron,
I don't know about Kuzma.
Me neither.
If this was like LeBron 2011 maybe or something like that, I would be. But at this point, LeBron has been through it all, experienced it all. I think he physicality, he's fine with it. Like he'd be able to thrive in this era. But I do question Anthony Davis for sure.
That's very interesting.
And that's big though, because if Anthony Davis goes from giving you his 25, 26 a game to 20 because of this, that throws that series way off.
Dead ass. That's a great point. That's a really good point. I think Anthony Davis could probably get to 25 points a game, but maybe on a lower percentage shooting, like a 45%.
Okay.
Just because of the size and the shit he's got to deal with inside. If his jump shot's good, like if he's hitting that mid range that we've talked about already, or the 3, and he's crossing guys up. If he's crossing Robert Parrish up at the 3-point line, then all bets are off.
Yeah. If you let it, I agree. If Anthony,
you're right, dude. It really does depend on how Anthony Davis feels that when he gets up that morning.
The X factor. I remember, like, my whole thing is I would get frustrated with Anthony Davis during that postseason run because it's like he would be just like such a shooter. Like he would go more of the shooting route than like posting up. when I felt like he should take advantage of his post-ups, even on smaller guys. So
but that's the era. That's the era we're in.
Yeah, and that's why I think like it could be detrimental in this series. Like he could be like I think he's really the X factor.
Is it the
Like
era we're
LeBron's
in though? Like, sorry to like go, but is it the era we're in though? Because people have been saying like they're complaining before like this season about Joel Embiid not posting people up, and then now he is, and we're saying he's having a great season. So is it really the era, or is Anthony Davis just not posting people up still?
In comparison to 1985, yeah.
Like I get it, but like you could still post people up if you have advantages, and we're seeing that.
I'm keeping it in comparison to the 80s, dude. In comparison to the 80s.
If he's in and out like he does like he was in the 2020 playoffs, then he's definitely not posting guys up enough. But I see where you're coming from though, Lindsay. Like I could definitely see what you're saying, but I think he definitely doesn't post people enough compared to that 86 era for sure.
Yeah, that's more what I'm looking at when I say we're in the era now. It's more because in the 80s the game was so predicated on the post up and the inside out type deal. So that's why I look at it like that. But you're right. Now, but that goes back to a conversation we had talked about on another episode about bigs. Once the big skill gap changes, then it's going to be a different playing field as we go forward into the 2020s. Yeah. But reversing our time machine, I'm taking the 2020 Lakers in 7 over the 86 Celtics.
I feel like I'm so fucked up for this, but I really do think I'm taking the Celtics in 6. Only because I don't think Anthony Davis would be okay in that. I think just to add to my point, I think Anthony Davis benefited from playing like the teams he played in the 2020 playoffs didn't have legit bigs that could guard him or stop him. Like the only big that was even stood a chance was Nurkic. Like in terms of like stardom and love, but it
was no shot. Anthony Davis.
It was no shot. Yeah, Anthony. So I think here you're gonna have to go against way more bigs. The only reason I was giving him some type of an edge versus the Lakers was because Kareem was older, and I think Anthony Davis could exploit that a little more. But here you got some guys in their prime, and I think that, and they're more rugged. Like that was always the thing. If you go back to the Lakers Celtics docs, the biggest thing with the Celtics were like blue collar and would hit.
Sure. That's why when you were talking about, I don't know why I didn't bring it up the Lakers. That's why you didn't bring it up, because it's associated with the Celtics and the Pistons after them. That hard nosed style of play. Yeah. Rugged defense.
The Lakers always wanted to do the Showtime, and I liked your fast break point because if you let in the Showtime Lakers run,
that's why I think they have an advantage on a team like the Lakers, because I would think even in 2020, if we saw a team doing that to this Lakers team, it was not going to be in the half court. It was going to be through a guy like Damian Lillard making crazy jump shots in transition, and like guys and the Nuggets getting things moving in transition. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why I think the Lakers have a better shot. The 87 Lakers have a better shot against this team, but I think I'm taking the 2020 Lakers over the Celtics in 7. You got the Celtics in 6. Yep. Lindsay, what do you got?
I'm really having a hard time with this one. I would probably do 6, and I'll give it to the Celtics.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.